Fleet Admiral Vashti stood on the observation deck of the Dominance Eternal, watching the small blue world through the reinforced viewing ports with a mixture of amusement and condescension. The planet's inhabitants, humans, according to their intercepted communications, had finally achieved enough technological development to warrant the hegemony's attention. Unfortunately for them, they had also attracted the attention of the hegemony's expansion protocols. "Status report," Vashti commanded, his forearms folded behind his back in the traditional pose of hegemony authority. "The primitives have responded to our arrival, Admiral," reported War Coordinator Thexan, her carapace gleaming under the ship's bioluminescent lighting. "They've positioned what appear to be defensive vessels around their planet." Vashti's mandibles clicked with amusement. Through his neural link to the ship's sensors, he could see the human fleet, crude metal constructs powered by controlled explosions, bristling with what looked like simple projectile weapons. Defensive vessels? Those barely qualify as spacecraft. What are they using for weapons? "Chemical propulsion systems for kinetic projectiles, Admiral. Metal slugs fired by explosive charges." Thexan's voice carried the same dismissive tone. "Our quantum shielding should absorb their impacts without registering on our sensors." Around the bridge, other officers began the harmonic humming that served as laughter among their species. In 3 centuries of galactic expansion, the hegemony had encountered plasma cannons, antimatter torpedoes, gravitational wave disruptors, and consciousness-scrambling psychic attacks. Never had they faced an opponent still using what amounted to sophisticated rock throwing. "What's their largest projectile weapon?" Vashti asked, genuinely curious about the extent of their primitiveness. "Approximately 406 millimeters in diameter," Thexan replied, consulting her biocomputer interface. "They appear to fire solid metal projectiles, weighing roughly 1,200 kilograms, at velocities around 760 meters per second." The bridge erupted in full harmonic laughter. Their personal sidearms could generate plasma bursts with more energy than these cannons. A single shot from their smallest defensive turret could destabilize molecular bonds across several cubic meters. "Admiral," came the voice of Communications Coordinator Zilneth, "the humans are transmitting surrender demands." "Surrender demands?" Vashti's amusement deepened. "They want us to surrender to them? They claim that if we don't withdraw immediately, they'll be forced to open fire." Zilneth's bioluminescent patches pulsed with barely contained hilarity. "They warn that their weapons are extremely dangerous and that we should reconsider our position." Vashti moved to the tactical display, studying the formation of human ships. Quaint little vessels, really, arranged in what was probably considered an intimidating battle line. "Open a channel. Let's humor them." The main display shimmered, revealing the bridge of the lead human vessel. The creature standing in the center was surprisingly small, bipedal, with pale skin and patches of fur on its head. It wore what appeared to be a decorated cloth covering. "This is Admiral Richardson of the United Earth Naval Defense Force," the human spoke, its voice carrying through the translation matrix. "You are in violation of Earth sovereign space. Withdraw immediately, or we will engage." Vashti stepped forward, allowing his full 12-foot height to be visible in the transmission. "I am Fleet Admiral Vashti of the Galactic Hegemony. Your world has been selected for integration into our empire. Stand down your primitive vessels and prepare for occupation." The human admiral's face displayed what their cultural database indicated was determination. "I'm warning you one last time. Our weapons may look primitive to you, but they're specifically designed to be effective against any threat. Your metal projectiles against our quantum shielding." Vashti's mandibles clicked rapidly. "By all means, demonstrate your effectiveness. Perhaps we need entertainment before beginning our occupation." Admiral Richardson's expression grew grim. "You asked for it. All ships, open fire." The human fleet erupted in flashes of chemical explosions, launching their primitive projectiles across the void. Vashti watched with amusement as the first wave of metal slugs approached his flagship, ready to demonstrate the futility of resisting hegemony technology. The first projectile struck their forward quantum shield and passed through it. Vashti's amusement died instantly. What just happened? Impossible, Thexan stammered, her claws dancing over her control interface. The shield should have dispersed the kinetic energy across 11 dimensions. Nothing solid should be able to. The projectile struck the ship's hull. The Dominance Eternal shuddered. Warning harmonics began echoing through the bridge as damage reports flooded in. The projectile had punched completely through 17 layers of smart matter armor, destroying 3 decks and venting atmosphere into space. How is this possible? Vashti roared as more projectiles impacted the ship. Each strike sent shock waves through the vessel's structure. Run a molecular analysis on those projectiles. Thexan's response came moments later, her voice shaking with disbelief. Admiral, the projectiles aren't just metal. They're compressed matter atoms packed so densely that they're barely stable. Each projectile has a mass density that should collapse into a micro-singularity. Another wave of impacts shook the ship. Through the tactical display, Vashti could see that every human ship was firing continuously, sending hundreds of these impossible projectiles streaming toward his fleet. They're using controlled gravitational compression. The science coordinator's voice carried panic harmonics. These aren't primitive kinetic weapons, they're miniaturized gravitational anomalies. How did they develop this technology without understanding quantum mechanics? War coordinator Thexan's carapace had turned pale with shock. Admiral, the Conquest Pride is reporting hull breaches on 14 decks. The hegemony's will has lost primary power. These projectiles are punching through everything like it's empty space. Vashti stared at the tactical display. In growing horror, the human primitive weapons weren't just penetrating their defenses, they were ignoring them entirely. Each projectile carried so much compressed mass that it created its own localized gravitational field, warping space-time enough to bypass energy shields completely. How many rounds can they fire? He asked desperately. Sensors indicate each ship carries approximately 1,200 projectiles, with the ability to fire continuously for. Thexan paused, recalculating. Admiral, their supply seems essentially unlimited. They're manufacturing more ammunition during the battle. The human admiral's face reappeared on the screen. Having second thoughts about our primitive weapons, Admiral? You're looking at 800 years of human warfare evolution. We've been killing each other with projectile weapons since we discovered metal. We've gotten very, very good at it. Another massive impact sent Vashti sprawling as the ship's artificial gravity fluctuated. Emergency lighting bathed the bridge in warning colors. Each of those projectiles contains the same mass as a small asteroid, compressed into a shell the size of your head. Admiral Richardson continued conversationally. We developed the compression technology after we figured out how to make black holes in our particle accelerators. Turns out, if you can create a singularity, you can also create matter dense enough to punch holes in reality itself. Vashti realized with mounting terror that the humans hadn't developed primitive weapons, they'd developed weapons so fundamentally violent that they bypassed the elegant energy-based warfare of galactic civilization entirely. While other species had moved on to exotic particles and dimensional manipulation, humans had perfected the art of throwing rocks so hard they broke the universe. Admiral, Thexan's voice was barely a whisper. The hegemony's will is gone. Complete structural collapse. They're not just destroying our ships, they're turning them into debris clouds. On the tactical display, Vashti watched as another of his vessels simply ceased to exist, transformed into an expanding field of scrap metal by a handful of human projectiles. You see, Admiral Richardson's voice continued. We may not have your shields or your energy weapons, but we understand mass, velocity, and kinetic energy better than anyone in the galaxy. Because when you can't regenerate, when you can't rely on exotic defenses, you learn to make sure that when you hit something, it stays dead. The Dominance Eternal shuddered again as more impacts registered. Warning klaxons were now harmonizing in patterns Vashti had never heard before. The ship's AI was inventing new emergency protocols in real time. Full retreat, Vashti commanded, his voice cracking. All ships, emergency withdrawal. Maximum velocity. As the surviving hegemony vessels limped away from Earth at their maximum speed, Vashti found himself staring at the damage reports with a new understanding. The humans hadn't been primitive at all. They'd been so advanced in the art of destruction that they'd moved beyond conventional physics entirely. Sir, Thexan approached cautiously. How do we report this to High Command? Vashti watched the blue world receding in the distance, its inhabitants having just redefined the hegemony's understanding of warfare. We tell them the truth. We encountered a species that weaponized gravity itself and called it conventional artillery. He paused, reviewing the tactical recordings. And we recommend that Earth be classified as a no-contact zone. Permanently. As they fled into hyperspace, none of the hegemony officers mentioned the final transmission they'd received from Admiral Richardson. Next time, we'll show you what our advanced weapons can do. The thought of what humans considered advanced weaponry was too terrifying to contemplate.